We're going to be taking a cool local and scenic trip along US 301. Come on, let's go! Alright everyone, today we're going to be doing US Highway 301 northbound. US 301 is the longest child of US Highway 1 at 1,099 miles. It runs from Florida all the way up to Delaware, and along its route, it actually has some pretty good signage. And I have been on portions of US 301 in Florida and North Carolina, so I will be showing my pictures of 301 in those states. So, let's get started with this local and cool highway. But first, you're watching The TheDerpHog, where I make highways content on all sorts of different topics. If you've been enjoying it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you've been really enjoying it, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're notified on all future videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, become a member today, where you get custom cool emojis, early access to future videos, along with one free extra request per month. And if you don't want to become a member, you can always just pay $3 for a intersection request in future videos. Those highways will be listed down in the description below, and I'll make sure to shout you out when that video releases. So let's get on with the highway. As you can see here, this is the map of US Highway 301 as it runs from US 41 in Sarasota, Florida, all the way up to a junction with US Highway 13 just south of Wilmington, Delaware. And the colored portion is the part of route that I've been on personally. So without me talking about northbound US 301. So we begin here at a junction with US 41 just south of Sarasota, Florida, where 41 is going to be hugging the coast here, while 301 is going to be heading north towards Bradenton. And this is still in the Sarasota area. We get our first reassurance shield after we split off from US 41 here. And we're now meeting with Florida Highway 70, which will take you over Arcadia and over to Interstate 75 and US 17, while westbound 70 will take you over to US 41. And here we are merging back into US 41, as 41 and 301 are going to be concurrent as they cross over the Manatee River together and into Bradenton. Here is where we split off from US 41 for good, as we're now getting signed north for Ellenton and to Interstate 75. And our first mileage time, we get Tampa as our primary from 45 miles away, which is absolutely cool to see. I know it'd be faster to take Interstate 75 to Tampa, but it's still cool to see on US 301. And speaking of Interstate 75, here we are meeting it as it's being signed north for Tampa and south for Naples. And our next mileage time, we still get Tampa now as our primary from 41 miles away, and Sun City Center is now our secondary from 19. And then further up the road, we now get another mileage sign with Zephyr Hills as our primary from 42 miles away, which kind of makes sense because it is a pretty sizable place, and we're only now 23 miles out from Tampa. And in the Tampa area, we meet with Interstate 75 once again, as it's now getting signed north for Brandon and Ocala, while 75 South is being signed for Naples. And here we are meeting the Selman Expressway, which will actually take you back over to Interstate 75 and over to St. Petersburg. Now we're meeting with Florida Highway 60, which will take you into downtown Tampa and over to the Tampa International Airport, while 60 East is just going to be heading out into rural Florida. And we can see that there's a mileage sign up ahead, so let us see what it's signed for. It gets signed for Ocala? This is pretty cool after that. Well done! I definitely agree with this mileage sign. And then on the outskirts of Tampa, we're meeting with US 92 and Interstate 4 as they're getting signed for Orlando and Tampa respectively. Now we're meeting with US Highway 98, and we're going to be concurrent with 98 here as we head north towards Ocala. Here is where we split off from US 98 as it's heading northwest to Interstate 75 in Brooksville, while we're now getting signed north for Wildwood, which I think is an alright choice because that's where we meet the Florida's Turnpike. And our next mileage sign, we still get Wildwood as our primary from 30 miles away. And here we are in Wildwood meeting with the Florida's Turnpike being signed north for Ocala and south for Miami respectively. And after that, we get another mileage sign, and Ocala comes back now as our primary from 26 miles away. And here in Bellevue, we're meeting with US 27 and 441, and we're now going to be concurrent with these two highways as we head towards downtown Ocala. Here in downtown Ocala, we're now meeting with Florida Highway 40, which is being signed east for Silver Spring, while we just get a pull-through for 27, 301, and 441. I mean, personally, I like to see maybe a control city for these highways, maybe like Tallahassee or Jacksonville. Those will be better than nothing. And here's where we split up, where 27 splits off from US 301 and 441 to head over to Interstate 75 and up towards Tallahassee. And we're now getting signed for Stark as our primary, while US 441 is going to be heading north towards Gainesville. And here we are meeting with Florida Highway 326, and the last time I was on this road, I actually got onto US 301 and 441 here from Florida 326. And here's where US 441 gets signed for Gainesville as it's splitting off from US 301, and we're now getting signed north for Stark. I mean, if 441 is getting signed north for a big city, why can't we get signed for Jacksonville? Because I am like 99% sure that 301 is the fastest way to Jacksonville if you're coming from Western Florida or like the Tampa area. So come on, FDOT, you were doing really well. Why can't you sign Jacksonville on 301? In our next mileage time, we do get Stark as our primary from 44 miles away. And then after going through that secondary town, we now get Hawthorne as our secondary from 14 miles away, and Stark still as our primary. And this is a pretty cool palindromic mileage time. One place I wanted to point out in Hawthorne is this Love's here, because the last time I was on 301, I actually stopped here at this Love's, and it was an alright store. And then further up the road, we're now getting Baldwin now as our primary from 31 miles away, because we're only 10 miles from Stark now. But apparently FDOT has decided to go in the other direction. We're now getting signed for Lotley. You wanna know what the population of Lotley is? It only has 630 people! What's happened to Baldwin? Baldwin is way larger than Lotley. Sign Baldwin or Jacksonville, FDOT. No need for this small town on US 301. Anyways, here in the Stark area, we're meeting with a 301 alternate as it's a bypass route, while 301 North is going to be heading into downtown Stark. And on the bypass route, we are now getting signed for Baldwin still as our primary, and Interstate 10 is now our secondary. And here is where we unite with 301 proper, as we're now getting signed north for Jacksonville. Personally, I'd like to see it back all the way down in Ocala, or we're split off from 441, but at least we're now getting signed for it. Here are meeting with Interstate 10, which will take you over to Jacksonville, and no comment for that 10 westbound control city. Here in Baldwin, we're meeting with US Highway 90, as 90 actually parallels Interstate 10, and we're going to be heading up towards Callahan now. In our next mileage time, we get Callahan on the top line, Interstate 95, and Fernanda Beach as our primary. These two control cities actually are on Florida A18 and Florida Highway 200. We're going to be heading up towards Callahan. And here in Callahan, we're meeting with US Highway 1 and 23, and it looks like Florida A1A has photobombed with this picture. In our next mileage time, we get Folkston as our primary from 24 miles away. Yay. And then here in Hilliard, we get another mileage time. We get Jessup now as our primary from 52 miles away. So they're actually favoring US 301 here, while giving us our own control of Waycross. We're now entering into the state of Georgia here, and let us see what Georgia has to offer on US 23. And we get our first mileage time, we get Waycross as our bottom line, so good job, GDOT. Here is where US 301 splits off from us, and we're now still signed for Waycross, as 301 is now signed for Jessup. And then after splitting off from US 1 and 23, we get our mileage time with Jessup now as our primary from 53 miles away. That is a good choice. And this here is in one of the small towns of Georgia, as we're now meeting with US Highway 82, which will take you over to Brunswick, while we're still getting signed for Jessup. Our next Malechan, we now get Statesboro as our primary. Wow, that's a pretty long distance for a mid-sized city. Here in Jessup, we're meeting with US 341 and US Highway 25, and US 25 is now going to be concurrent with us as we head towards Ludowicki and Hinesville. Our next Malechan, we get Savannah as our secondary from 67 miles away. That is awesome, and Statesboro is still our primary. And here arming US 84, we're now going to be concurrent with it, and this is probably the reason why we were being signed for Savannah as of US 84. And this is where we split off from US Highway 84 as 301 and 25 are now going to be heading north towards Statesboro. Here in Claxton, we're meeting with US Highway 280 here, and we now get a 2 Interstate 16 shield because we're going to be meeting 16 soon. Our next Malechan, we now get Sylvania as our primary from 45 miles away. I don't know how I feel about that. And that is some really weird looking arrow for 2 Interstate 16 here, GDOT. Here are Interstate 16 as it's being signed for Macon and Savannah respectively. And this is here in downtown Statesboro where we're finally splitting off from US Highway 25 as it's going to be joining with US Highway 80. And we're going to be heading north towards Sylvania. And also this junction of US 301, 80, and 25 was requested by Southern Route Nerd. So thank you for this request. And then this here is in Sylvania, and we're now getting signed for Allendale as our next control city, which is an alright choice because it's the first town in South Carolina and it's where we meet US 278. And our next Malechan, we get Allensdale on the top line from 25 miles away in Waynesboro, South Carolina as our primary. And here we are entering into the state of South Carolina. Let us see what South Carolina has to offer on US 301. Here we are meeting with US Highway 278 and are now going to be concurrent with it as we head towards Walterboro and Orangeburg. And this is where we split off from US Highway 278 as we're now getting signed for Charleston? We're getting signed for Charleston from 89 miles away? US 301 doesn't even make it to Charleston. This is a rare SCDOT W. Well done, South Carolina. Man, that is awesome. Now we're meeting with US Highway 321 and we're now getting Columbia. We're getting Columbia now as our primary too. So these are some well done favoring routes. Well done, SCDOT. And even sticks as our primary. Columbia from 68 miles away with Bamberg as our secondary. Here's where US 321 splits off from US 301 as that will head up towards Columbia. Or we're going to be heading north towards Bamberg and Orangeburg. Here outside of Bamberg, we're meeting with US 601 and we're going to be concurrent with it as we head through town. And here we are meeting with US Highway 78 in Bamberg as we're now getting signed for Orangeburg now as our primary. And here in Orangeburg, we split off from US Highway 601 and 21 Business as we're now getting signed north for Santee. I mean, that's an alright choice. Now we're meeting with US 21 proper and US 178 as they're getting signed for Columbia as we're now getting signed for Santee still as our primary. Here we are meeting with Interstate 26 as it's being signed west for Columbia and east for Charleston, which are some choices. Here we are meeting with US Highway 176 out in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina, like US 176 likes to do. And we now get a welcome to Santee sign, and I'm going to be skipping this entire area because, like in the US 15 video, it's just too confusing to figure out on its own. So here we are crossing over Lake Marion on Interstate 95 and US 301. And we're now splitting off from Interstate 95, and for some reason, is that County Route 400 is getting billing over US 15 301? No, South Carolina, please change this. And after splitting off from Interstate 95, we get our very own control city, and we're now signed for Somerton. No, Somerton's a ridiculously small town where 15 and 301 split off from each other. Either do, I don't know, Sumter or Florence, not Somerton. Ah, not another one-liner. We get Somerton from 8 miles away. How about something on either 15 or 301, please? Not just Somerton alone. Here we split off from US Highway 301, and we're finally assigned north for Sumter once again.
Thank you!
While 301 gets signed north for Manning and Florence. And it's after splitting off from US Highway 15, we're now meeting with Interstate 95 here, and it's being signed for Florence and Savannah here. Here you are meeting with US 521 and South Carolina Highway 261 here in the heart of Manning, and we're now getting signed for Turbeville from 18 miles away. I do not agree with that choice at all. Turbeville only has a population of 760 people. This should definitely be Florence, SCDOT. You went downhill fast. And here in Turbeville, we're now meeting with US Highway 378, and we get signed for Myrtle Beach. You can see that we're getting signed for Myrtle Beach. Now you just skyrocket back up. Well done, SCDOT. And here we split off from US Highway 378 as that's getting signed for Myrtle Beach, while we're now getting signed for Atlanta. No, I want to see Florence here. Florence is our next major city. Also, we're splitting off from US 378 in front of a Bojangles here. I do love some Bojangles. Our next Malachine, we do get Florence as our primary from 29 miles away. Why wasn't it on that sign when we split off from 378, SCDOT? Here we are meeting with US Highway 52 just south of Florence, and these two highways are going to be concurrent as we head towards town. And here is where we split off from US Highway 52, as 52 will take into downtown, while 301 is going to be bypassing Florence here. Our next mile here, we get our next Malachine after splitting off from US 52 with Myrtle Beach as our primary. This is totally awesome, SCDOT. You are like nailing the favoring routes here. This is awesome. And here are we with US Highway 76 as we're going to be concurrent with it as we head towards Marion and Francis Marion University. And here's where we split off from US Highway 76 as we're now getting signed for Dillon, while 76 is getting signed for Myrtle Beach. We're now getting a lot of Dillon here. And just outside of Lada, we meet with US 501, and we're now going to be concurrent with the US 501 as we head up towards Lada and Dillon. And here in Dillon, we meet with South Carolina 9 and 57 as 301 and 501 are now being signed for Fayetteville and Bennettsville, which are definitely awesome choices. And we're now passing by south of the border here at the North Carolina and South Carolina border. And after going through this attraction, we meet with Interstate 95 at exit 199/1. And it's being signed north for Fayetteville and south for Florence. And immediately after passing by Interstate 95, we're now entering into the state of North Carolina. Oh boy, let us see what North Carolina has to offer on 301. Our first major junction is with North Carolina Highway 130, and 501 is splitting off from us as we're now heading north towards Fayetteville. Our next Malachine, we do get Fayetteville as our primary from 51 miles away, so NCDOT is starting off good here. But once we meet Interstate 95, we're now getting signed north for Lumberton. No, I want to see Fayetteville. We're already basically in Lumberton. Why are you signing Lumberton, NCDOT? And here I'm in with the 74s, and every time I see this, I just get ugh. And our next Malachine, we do get Fayetteville as our primary from 31 miles away. And this is where 301 splits off from Interstate 95 as it's getting signed north for Lumberton? Huh? But when we actually look onto that road, 301 actually gets signed north for nothing, which kind of makes sense because US 301 basically just parallels Interstate 95 and passes through only one town. So I kind of agree with that. Here I'm in Interstate 95 at exit 25 here as it's being signed north for Fayetteville still, Well, 95 South is being signed for Lumberton. No, that should be either Charleston or Columbia. Why would anyone want to take 301 just get back onto Interstate 95 to head south towards Lumberton? We just came from Lumberton, North SCDOT. Sign something else. And after passing by Interstate 95, we get a mileage sign, and we're now getting signed for Fayetteville ourselves from 25 miles away. Here in St. Paul's, we're meeting with North Carolina Highway 20 as it's being signed for Elizabethtown and Lumber Bridge. The next mileage sign we now get Dunn as our primary from 44 miles away. I mean, it kind of makes sense because Dunn has 9,000 people and is the next major town we'll be passing through after going through Fayetteville. And on the outskirts of Fayetteville, we're meeting with North Carolina Highway 71 here. And this bridge in the distance is actually Interstate 295. And in the heart of Fayetteville, we're now meeting with 95 Business, and 95 Business is actually concurrent with 301 as we head through the city. And since we don't have a direct intersection with US 401, we meet with North Carolina 162, which acts as our proxy over to US 401. And here in the heart of Fayetteville, US 301 and Interstate 95 Business actually pass by the Crown Complex Center. And this actually was requested by Ryan Golan, as this is where they'll be the day after this video releases for a color guard tournament. So thank you for that request. And we're now actually entering into the city of Fayetteville itself when we're meeting with North Carolina Highway 87. And this sign is pretty confusing. Here we have a speed limit of 55, and right next to it is a citywide speed limit of 35. So do we have to go either 55 or 35? Just pick one. In the heart of Fayetteville still, we're now meeting with North Carolina 24 and North Carolina 210 as they're being signed for Clinton and Fort Liberty, while we're heading north towards Benton. I think the only reason why Benton is on there is because of Interstate 95. If you want to favor Interstate 95, do Raleigh, no need for Benton. And here is where we split off from Interstate 95 Business as we're now getting signed north for Eastover. I want to see Dunn. We're practically in Eastover. Sign Dunn in SCDOT. And here you are going under Interstate 295 once again, and we can see that 95 gets abysmal control cities. Here you are meeting with North Carolina Highway 82, which will take you over to Irwin, North Carolina. Yes, that Irwin. And 82 East will take you over towards US Highway 13 and to Interstate 95. And let's see what we're signed for on North Carolina Highway 82. Hey, we're now getting signed for Dunn, which definitely is the correct choice. Here in Dunn, we meet with North Carolina 55 and US Highway 421 as they're getting signed for Willington and Clinton. And I've actually been at this intersection before and got my own selfie with the 301 shield, so yay. And one of the major attractions here in Dunn is actually Sherry's Bakery here. And sadly, this is not on 301 itself, but is actually a couple blocks west of 301. So it's in the vicinity, so I am definitely sharing it. Plus, they have really good donuts there. And after going through downtown Dunn, we're now meeting with North Carolina Highway 50 and 27 here in the heart of Benson. Yay! And since we don't have a direct interchange with Interstate 40, here we are going over it, as we can see that the exit for Interstate 95 in the distance. And this here is in Four Oaks, as we're meeting the northern terminus of US 701 here. And 301 and 96 are now be heading up towards Selma and Smithfield. Here in the Smithfield area, we're meeting with US Highway 70 Business, which will take you over to Interstate 95, as we're now heading north towards Selma, Kenley, and Wilson. And this road here is actually future Interstate 42, it's just they don't have an interchange built with it yet. And we can see that we're about to meet US 70 here. But right at the 70 and 301 junction, we passed by one of the greatest places ever, Pizza Inn. I definitely recommend that place if you're ever in the Selma area. And this is my own picture of US 301 meeting with US Highway 70 as it's been signed for Clayton and Goldsboro. And if you want to check out a video on US 70, it's in the top right corner here. Hey, what happened to the other highways? North Carolina 39, did you make them disappear? And after going through Selma, we get another mileage sign with Wilson now as our primary from 26 miles away. And this here is known as Truck Stop Road, and this road will actually take you over to Kenly 95, which is also another cool place that you should definitely check out if you're ever on Interstate 95 in the Kenly area. Now we're meeting Interstate 95 at exit 107 here, as it's been signed south for Smithfield. No, that should be Fayetteville, and north for Rocky Mount. You know what the stupid thing about this is? At this same very exit, we get a pull through for Interstate 95, getting signed north for Richmond. So NCDOT, why can't you put Richmond here for Interstate 95? And you know what's even stupid? We're getting signed for Rocky Mount on northbound 301. So we should be getting Rocky Mount, while 95 should be getting signed for Richmond. Ugh. Anyways, here in Kenly, we passed by North Carolina 222 here, and we're going to be heading up towards Wilson and Rocky Mount. And on our way to Wilson, we actually passed by this tobacco museum, which is actually a very interesting place. And our next mileage time, we get Rocky Mount as our primary from 32 miles away. And this is here in Wilson, we're meeting with Interstate 795, which for some reason isn't in any control cities, or I couldn't find any. And then further up the road, we're actually now meeting with Interstate 587 and US 264 as they're getting signed for Raleigh and Greenville, which are cool, great, good choices. And still in the Wilson area, we're meeting with North Carolina Highway 42. And our next mileage time, we now get Weldon as our primary from 55 miles away. I mean, you could argue for Emporia, but we do meet US 158 in Weldon. I don't know. And here in the Rocky Mount area, we're meeting with US Highway 64, which is going to sign east for Tarboro and west for Raleigh. And if you want to check out a series on US 64, it's in the top right corner here. And after passing by US 64, we get another mileage sign with Weldon still as our primary from 34 miles away. Personally, I like to see Emporia here because Emporia is out of state and it's where we meet with US 58. And plus, I'm pretty sure it's bigger than Weldon. But no, when we meet with North Carolina Highway 4, NCDOT does not either sign neither Weldon or Emporia. We get signed for Halifax. You want to know what the population of Halifax is? It only has 170 people. Plus, we don't even meet anything major in Halifax. They're just signing it for no reason. Like NCDOT, why in the world are you signing a very small place on a major important US highway? That should be Weldon or Emporia. No need for Halifax. It's not an important town today. It was important like 400 years ago, but it's not the 1700s anymore. Sign Emporia. But our next mileage time, we get Weldon still as our primary, so they're not even sticking to Halifax. So why sign it, NCDOT? But it finally appears as our next mileage sign after going through Whittakers. And this here is in Halifax. See, we don't get anything important at all. We just get North Carolina 125 and 903. So why sign it in the first place? Anyways, here in Weldon, we meet with US Highway 158, and that'll take you over to Interstate 95, while 158 East and 301 are going to be concurrent as we cross over the Roanoke River. On the other side of the river, we split off from US Highway 158, as that'll take you over to the East Coast and over towards the Outer Banks, while 301 is going to be heading north towards Emporia. In fact, we finally get Emporia as our primary from 17 miles away. And no, that was not a pleasant experience to go through in NCDOT, so why are you signing Pleasant Hill too? And we're finally entering into the state of Virginia, so let us see what Virginia has to offer on US 301. In our first mileage time, we do get Richmond now as our primary. Well done in Virginia, you're doing way better than North Carolina so far. And here we are passing through the community of Skippers, which kind of looks pretty interesting. It's on one of my places that I'd like to visit. And here on the outskirts of Emporia, we meet with Interstate 95 as both are being signed left. And still in Emporia, we meet with US Highway 58 here. And if you want to check out a video on US 58, it's in the top right corner here. And then here we are meeting with Interstate 95 at exit 13 here, which is being signed for Rocky Mountain, Richmond. And a ways up the road, we actually are now a frontage road for Interstate 95, so I'm just going to be skipping this portion of US 301. Here we are meeting with Virginia 40 in Stony Creek, Virginia. And then a couple miles up the road, we actually pass by the Davis Travel Plaza on Interstate 95 here. And I skipped all the way up to exit 45, we're meeting with Interstate 95, and 95 North is now getting signed for Richmond once again. And whenever I saw this on Interstate 95, it made me laugh because it's Shut Yo Mouth Restaurant. Sadly, it's no longer there, as this was from my 2018 Street View. And here in the heart of Petersburg, we're now splitting into an alternate route and a regular route, and we're going to be following regular 301 here. And this is where we meet our parent, US Highway 1, as we're now going to be concurrent with as we head up towards Richmond. And here in Chester, Virginia, we meet with Virginia Highway 10, which will take you over to Interstate 95. And I would be with Virginia Highway 288 here, which I personally believe should be Interstate 864. Or you could try to build a connector from 288 over to 295 and sign that entire area as 295. Now I mean the Chippenham Parkway, Virginia Highway 150, which will take you over to Interstate 95 and Virginia 895 Toll Road, as we're now getting signed north for Richmond still. Here in the outskirts of Richmond, we are meeting with US Highway 360 here. And now we're meeting with US Highway 60 proper as we're about to enter into downtown Richmond. And right before we enter downtown, we actually cross over Interstate 195, and we sadly have no direct interchange with it. And here's a cool picture of downtown Richmond, and it looks like that we're meeting Carey Street, so that's pretty cool. And this is on the north side of Richmond. We're meeting with Interstate 95, getting signed south for Petersburg, and 64 east for Norfolk. I do like that Norfolk, but that Petersburg should definitely either be Durham or Raleigh. And this is where US 1 splits off from US 301 as they'll head onto Azalea Avenue. And no, do not try mining underneath this road because I'm pretty sure you will not find a lush cave. Now we're meeting with Interstate 95 for another time, and it says to Interstate 295, but we're also going to be meeting Interstate 295 too, so it's kind of confusing for Virginia. In fact, here's that means with Interstate 295, as it's being signed for Norfolk and Rocky Mount, while 295 is being signed north for Charlottesville and Washington, D.C. And after passing by Interstate 295, we now get a mileage sign with Baltimore as our primary. So TheDerpHog is recognizing that this is the fastest way to Baltimore if you want to bypass all the DC traffic. So if TheDerpHog can recognize a major city for a bypass route, why can't FDOT? Here I'm meeting with Virginia Highway 207 here in Bowling Green, Virginia. And we're going to be taking a right turn here. And after meeting Virginia Highway 207, it looks like that Virginia is giving us an end US 301 shield. So with that, we end US Highway 301 and move on to the places I'll go. Wait, I just getting word that US 301 doesn't end? It actually continues up into Maryland and Delaware? So what was that end shield for? Alright, if you say so, that if 301 continues, so let us continue then. Anyways, here we are meeting with US Highway 17 in Northern Virginia, and this picture was actually taken by Tiger Raven here, so thank you for letting me use this picture here. And he also took a picture of this mileage sign after meeting US 17, with Baltimore still as our primary from 90 miles away. And you're arming with Virginia Highway 3, which will actually take you over into Fredericksburg going westbound, while we're going to be continuing north into Maryland. And this is my own picture via other family members of US 301 meeting with 218 here. And this picture is of the Potomac River Bridge welcome sign. And this here is another picture taken by Tiger Raven, as he was taking this picture as he was traveling over the Potomac River Bridge, coming back from a trip from Atlanta and back up home to Maryland. So thank you for that request. The Maryland welcome sign. And now we get our first mileage sign here in the state of Maryland, with Baltimore still as our primary from 72 miles away, while the Chesapeake Bay Bridge is now our secondary. Interesting. Here you're arming with Maryland Highway 5, which will take you up to Washington, D.C., while 301 is still signed north for Baltimore. Now in Upper Marlboro, we're meeting with Maryland Highway 4, which is being signed north for Washington, and south for Prince Frederick, which are good choices. And I recently just did a video on Maryland Highway 4 along with a couple of State Route 4s, and if you want to check that out, it's in the top right corner here. Now we're now with Maryland Highway 3 along with US Highway 50, and we're now being concurrent with US 50 as we head towards Annapolis, while Maryland 3 North is being signed for Crofton. No, that should be Baltimore, because I'm pretty sure this is the fastest way to Baltimore from here. And also this junction was also requested by Tiger Raven because he thinks that Maryland 3 should be signed north for Baltimore, as it was the old alignment of US 301, which used to go up to Baltimore. Also, Maryland 3 would have been Interstate 297 if Interstate 97 was extended, so all the more reason why it should be signed for Baltimore. And arming with Interstate 97, or its southern terminus, as it'll take you up north towards Baltimore. And let us see what we're signed for on Interstate 97. And this picture was again taken by Tiger Raven. We can see now we're now being signed northeast for Annapolis and Bay Bridge, which I think are all right choices. And now we're meeting with Maryland Highway 2, which is for some reason also being signed for Baltimore, and it will also take you over to the Naval Academy, as we are now in the heart of Annapolis. Also, this section of US 301 and 50 would have been Interstate 197 if again Interstate 97 was extended to Interstate 95. And then a couple miles up the road, we're now actually passing by the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, where 301 and 50 are going to be crossing it to cross over the Chesapeake Bay. Now on the other side of the bridge, we're now splitting off from US 50 as I'll head over towards Ocean City, and we're now getting signed north for Wilmington. I hate to break it to you, MDOT, but Wilmington is actually south of here, so why in the world are you signing it? Our next mileage sign, we get Chestertown as our primary. What, MDOT, what happened to Wilmington? You were just signing Wilmington. It should definitely be on here. No need for that Queenstown from a mile away. And here we are meeting with old US Highway 213, now Maryland 213, being signed north for Centerville and Y Mills. And then further up the road, we now get Wilmington now as our primary from 63 miles away. So, well done getting back on track, MDOT. And this mileage sign actually reminds me of this one here off of US Highway 70 near its eastern terminus. Pretty funny. And at random interchanges, we are now getting signed for Wilmington, as 301 is a freeway in this part of Maryland. And here we have another intersection request. This one is with Maryland 291, and it was requested by Jägermeister, as he takes US 301 up to Maryland 291 to visit his grandparents in Millington. So thank you for that request. And then a couple miles up the road, we're now entering into our last state, the state of Delaware. And this here is our first exit in Delaware for Delaware Highway 299. And this portion of US 301 is actually tolled. Interesting. And at random interchanges, we are now getting signed for Wilmington still, as 301 is heading up that way. And here's our last full exit on US Highway 301, as it's exit 9 for Jameson Corner Road. And because we are actually merging into US 13 and Delaware Highway 1, and we cannot get any information to get onto southbound 13 and Delaware 1. So with that, we actually do end US Highway 301 and actually move on to the places I'll go. So these are the places that I'd visit or recommend, since I've been on a little bit of US Highway 301. And here's that entire list. If you have any other places that I should visit or want me to recommend, please let me know down in the comments section below, and I'd love to recommend some of these other places. So that ends US Highway 301. Thank you all so much for watching this episode on US Highway 301. I hope you got to learn a little bit more about the highway, and if you've never been on the highway, I hope you get to experience it someday. So with that, here are my next few highways. If you have any intersection requests for any of these upcoming highways, please let me know down in the comments section below, and I'll make sure to shout you out once these highways release. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next week as we do Interstate 20. Bye!